Hello and welcome everyone. Just another minute and we'll be ready to kick off our webinar for today. Well, welcome everyone and good afternoon or good morning, depending on where your time zone is. This is Trudy DeWitt. I'm a campaign strategist at Calix. And thank you for joining us today for the Spring is in the Air, capitalizing on the outdoor Wi-Fi opportunity. Before our presenters begin, I'd like to share a few quick tips so that you can get the most out of your webinar experience. Located on the desktop, you'll see your GoToWebinar control panel, and here you'll find the questions section. We encourage you to submit any inquiries you may have during the presentation by entering them in this section, and we'll set time aside at the end of the presentation to respond to your inquiries. Also, I'd like to let you know that we'll have 3 live poll questions for you to participate in during the webinar, and we want to thank you in advance for your participation in these. Finally, as a housekeeping note, I'll be sending everybody who's registered and attended today a recording of today's session. So be on the lookout for that in your email in the next few days. So now with that, it's time for me to turn it over to John Casadonte, Calix Product Marketing. And I'd like to give him a warm welcome. And the mic is all yours, John.
Thanks, Trudy. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for spending your afternoon or morning with us for the next hour. I think we have a really interesting and exciting topic to discuss with you today. So when I get started here, I want to reflect on a couple things that we hope that you take away from the presentations. So note that this is the time of year when people are moving outdoors to do their thing, whether it be in the gardening, whether enjoying the pool, being outside in general. So we took this opportunity to have this webinar at this particular time to coincide and to resonate with you and also with your subscribers and understanding what the opportunity might be for um, rolling out a Wi-Fi service to your subscribers. So I'll get started, and first I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to accomplish today. So first we're going to talk about the agenda, and in the agenda, if I can get the agenda to move, there we go. So for the introductions, I want to introduce you to 2 of our customers that are good enough to attend and deliver their information today to this group of individuals. I want to talk to you a little bit about market dynamics and specifically about what's trending at this particular point in time within the Wi-Fi business and Wi-Fi service world. Next, we'll push it over to a conversation about outdoor coverage and what outdoor coverage means to you as a provider, what it means to your clients and to your subscribers. And then I'll turn it over to our presenters, to Jason Slagle and to Jess Van Beck, and I'll introduce those 2 individuals in a minute. And then we'll do a quick wrap up and hopefully have plenty of time for a Q&A. And I would encourage you, as Trudy indicated, to please type in questions in the question box so that we could have them recorded as well as being able to address them either on the call or after the call is completed. So with that, we'll get started and do a quick introduction of myself. Trudy mentioned, so I'm the Senior Manager in Product Marketing. I looked after the product family within Calix titled the Unlimited Subscriber Systems. Many of you probably recognize the name Revenue Edge. We did a transition earlier this year in representing a product portfolio that is really has an unlimited capability set for all of your customers. Next, I want to introduce Jason Slagle. Jason has joined Peoples in 2021 and is responsible for the commercial development in the managed services practice. Jason brings a wealth of expertise and passion around technology, people, and customer success. Prior to joining Peoples, Jason had held roles that have spanned engineering to account leadership at several of the Fortune 500 companies and has become a trusted advisor in the industry. Jason is also a proud veteran of the U.S. Army. So thanks for joining us, Jason. Also attending and presenting will be Jess Van Beck. Jess has been with Adams for 14 years. Jess oversees the field service technicians, the installers, splicers, and the Atom Experts residential service division, as well as all Atom service technician contractors. Jess is an active member in his community. He serves as the mayor of his town, as well as being a small business owner. He is passionate about customer service and particularly driven to advancing connectivity initiatives in Illinois. So, with both these gentlemen, I hope we have just an excellent perspective on their feelings about their business and also about the opportunities laying forward with the outdoor Wi-Fi. So as Judy mentioned, we're going to start out with a poll question to get you guys involved and hopefully just to start out a quick conversation. So Trudy, if you could go ahead and push that poll. So within your serving area, have your subscribers inquired about having outdoor coverage? And, pretty simple, right? I think many of us are not only telecommunications professionals, but we're also very much residential home users of our own services. So it's a pretty good indicator of whether, your customers yourselves are interested in doing outdoor Wi-Fi. So looking at the poll, we'll give it another few more seconds. And it looks like the vast majority of you are at the yes claim. So appreciate you responding. And I think we have the right crowd for this conversation. So I'm going to go on to the next slide and start out with a conversation around the marketplace. So first, I want to draw your attention to the map on the right-hand side. So that map is an FCC product that comes out of the reports about broadband access or broadband passings of residential homes. So specific to residential homes, the numbers as reported by Statista show that 125 million households out of 131 in the US have broadband passed. And as you know, broadband is classified a little bit differently. We like to think of it as fiber in most cases, but broadband could be delivered via cable services and also 5G services. But within our world, if you look at that map, it's pretty clear that there is still quite a few individuals that are depending on service providers to deliver a solid connection to the internet. In fact, the customers that you deal with, the subscribers, 25% of those on average between the rural areas and American tribal lands are still waiting for speeds above 25 meg and 3 meg up. I'll be one of those customers. I had been one of those customers for a number of years where I lived for 10 years. I suffered from a DSL connection that was 6 meg and 500K up. So I know very much how the customers feel in this particular territory. Looking at the bottom of the chart, now we're into more of the Wi-Fi aspects of the world. So far left is a global forecast that includes all products and all services that are delivered by service providers worldwide. The percentage, 22.2%, is astronomical in any service world. That number really represents an incredible push from 2023 into 2028. As you know, many people in the country, many people in the world identify with Wi-Fi as internet access. So there is some crossover between the conversation of internet access and Wi-Fi usage. In the middle is a particular focused chart on outdoor Wi-Fi equipment. So the expectations, as illustrated by this analyst, shows that in 2024, there'll be expenditures of over $7 billion for outdoor kit and growing very rapidly to 2029 at a roughly $11 million. So that incorporates everything that we deal with, both residential and business. Could be also large municipal lots, those kind of locations, downtown cities, all factor into those numbers. And specifically, that represents both the products and services. So looking at the bullets, another thing to recognize as consumers that there will be nearly 4.6 billion items products, electronics shipped by 2027 that are Wi-Fi enabled. So there always has been, different types of approaches to connectivity in-house. There's Zigbee conversations, there's Bluetooth, but Wi-Fi continues to grow at a rapid pace. And finally, the last bullet, which is the most significant for you guys as service providers, is that the growth of this service market is just incredible, from 2 billion cited in 2021 growing to 8 billion in 2028. So now let's take a different look at the market, and let's look at it from the subscriber's point of view and what actually is driving the usage within residential households, any of our users, any subscribers. So the average, as reported by the U.S. government, is 500 over 500 gig per month. I know that probably that ebbs and flows, but that's the average. And if you look over to the right-hand side, you can see the three categories that they are defining within this report coming from Open Vault. And essentially, you have power users all the way down to light users. And the light users actually represent a pretty interesting development, is that they're heavy streamers, obviously, and that is going to change also the way that the bandwidth is going to grow. So in 2023, the last report saw that over 20 devices per household are usually connected. I think you guys can do your own little self-check and figure out how many devices you have connected. I do my own survey here of my household, and growing with lights and everything else that come into play, I have over 25 connected devices now running within my household. Looking at the right-hand bottom, you can see which applications are really picking up the bandwidth. And as we move into 4K, which is pretty predominant now for over-the-top streaming, you're eating up 25 meg per channel. As far as the VR and AR capabilities, so virtual reality and augmented reality, if you're running it over an HD device or a 4K device, you can see how immense that jump is, from 100 megabits of usage to 500 megabits of usage. And finally, looking at the middle of this chart, the National Association of Realtors had did a survey of over 1,700 individuals, and basically what they asked about is how they use their household and what's the most important to them. Over 75% of the respondents of that 1,700 responded that they valued their outdoor world. They valued their backyard, their ability to go into their garages, their sheds, to be able to spend time outside of the household. So that is, again, another significant statement saying that more and more all of us want to be outdoors and expect to have connectivity available to us when we do that. So now as we bridge into a conversation around outdoor Wi-Fi, so some pretty nice photos of examples of where people might be utilizing outdoor Wi-Fi. These are real applications. Obviously, you can have anywhere from direct connectivity. If you're sitting on your dock, you can be out on the farm or in the back within your barn, basically, checking your email, checking for information, or if you're running a small business, accessing that information. And in the workshop, where you might have TVs located, or you want to have audio playing music that you want connected, it's all available to us now with the technology that's available at our hands. And my last slide before I turn it over to the speakers is just why should you care? So a couple really good reasons for looking at this from a perspective of business. First of all, as a provider to your subscribers, you provide whole home coverage. And today, whole home largely means within the doors or within your walls. And what we're professing here is that you have the ability to extend that coverage outdoors, so you can truly offer a whole home experience to your subscribers and maintain the same level of quality of service that you're delivering indoors. Secondly, there are applications that some are considered essential, some that might be considered casual. The two examples that I've shown here in my images, that if you have security concerns, many cameras obviously are connected via Wi-Fi. They don't have to be right off of your house. They could be back 100 feet or 200 feet, where you want to see individuals maybe approaching your personal items. Alternatively, if you just want to have a casual experience sitting out back with your family watching TV, watching some type of stream services, or again, listening to music. This offers another level of subscriber benefit that a provider delivers that can strengthen that particular relationship in a great way. The other part of going outdoors with an existing capability set is that you're leveraging everything that you've already invested in operationally from a support and operations team. And finally, it's all about generating incremental revenue and also delivering a valued service to your subscribers. So we all do this for the business, but a lot of you are in the business of doing it for your communities to be able to bring them online and to experience all things that we do on a regular basis. So with that, I'm going to transition the conversation over to Jason Slagle of People's Telephone.
Hey, Trudy, John, thank you for inviting people to your webinar today, and welcome everyone. So again, as John said, I'm Jason Slagle, Chief Business Development Officer here at Peoples. John, if you want to hit the next slide. So as this is coming up here, just to kind of level set, Peoples, we operate right outside of Dallas, Texas, there on the going out east, East Texas region. They're established in 1952 as a company. We operate both an ILEC and a CLEC entity. So being the demographics of who we serve, we have two distinct, different, kind of natures of environments that we serve. So we have very urban, the 40 to 50 foot lot lines, all the way to the thousands of feet lot lines, as you can imagine, out in rural East Texas. And so just I want to take a little bit of time and just go through our experience with not only Calix, but the shift to Calix and then utilizing these outdoor solution sets that they've brought to market here. So just a quick note, we've been a Calix back-end operator for many years, but we consolidated on a CPE product that was not Calix for many years. So we consolidated, went down one track, but over the years, and as we saw the demand of, just as John was mentioning, technology in the home, it's, today it's all about the in-home Wi-Fi experience. Wi-Fi is how your internet is judged, as y'all all know very well. So we really got to a point in our space where we had to make a decision of how do we progress forward. We couldn't stay the course that we were at because it just didn't have the product depth that we needed to support all these different environments that we were seeing. So we went through many different trials, demos of different solution sets out there. Ultimately decided to go down the Calix route in the CPE line of things. So as I pointed out here on the slide, our experience is very recent. So February 5th of 2024, we officially launched the Calix line of products. And so that evolved around, I know we're really focused outdoor here, but it all starts with the gateway and those devices. So we consolidated down to the U6 being deployed as our main gateway units, U4 indoor mesh units, and that brought us to the U4 HM outdoor units, along with one of their other outdoor gateway units. But this was all in line to support the different technologies that we have. So we have, certainly we're a fiber first company. We do have fixed wireless. So we have we've really standardized and gone down the track with utilizing Trana as that application there. But different technologies exist in that world as well. And then also our DSL market. But all this is being backed by, Calix CPE solution set when it comes down to it. So where we stand today, we're about 1,700 U6 deployed units. We have a little over 70 now, the U4 HMs deployed. A few of the outdoor gateways, the P6HEs, hopefully I'm getting that name right there, and averaging about 150 installs a week. So we have a really big client base out there, a lot of legacy CPE that we're just working as fast as we can to get converted. So it's going to be a long way to go to get there, but we have a right plan in place. And one of the things that Calix has done for us when we look at just the different units that are available indoor or outdoor is just having that that same in-home experience, the end-to-end solution. And that was it's been very critical for us because, as many of y'all probably have seen in the past, we've tried so many of off-the-shelf solutions of, how do you bridge from one point to the other point? How do you provide Wi-Fi in that? And then you have one gateway doing one thing, you have a bridge doing something else, and there's no really true end-to-end experience with going down that track. So moving out to this direction, we've had some great success, and for me, it's all about maybe painting a picture of the visual experience that we've had. Slideware is really nice to get the point across, but really seeing where we've put it in action. So I have on the next slide here, if you want to move forward, John, just kind of give you some overviews of some of the use cases that we've run into that it's worked really well. And really, like I said, we dove right into this, and we said we wanted a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and Calix has given it all to us, and we've gone down this track. So just like this scenario here, this is a picture. If any of y'all are bass fishermen, it's a big staple in our neck of the woods here. But we had the big Bassmaster event here on Lake Fork just a few months ago, and one of the requests they had was they wanted, this is brand new SRA park that was just built, but they wanted Wi-Fi coverage throughout that venue. They needed their vendors, to have Wi-Fi access. They had a big concert out here, so they wanted services for that venue. And then Bassmaster itself, they needed the back-end feed for their live stream that they were conducting. So we thought, what better yet to give this unit a really good, tough try, and we took a leap of faith here. Because we didn't have a lot of experience, as you can tell with that February 5th start date. But we set up, just like this picture shows right here in that venue, we set up a couple of these U4Hs around the area there. Had some really great coverage out of them, great speeds, great throughput. We averaged about, we're just checking in about 100 users at a time on the system, would seem to be the average. But overall, we put this up in a day, so it was no time to deploy, real quick and easy. Of course, you had the cloud, the service cloud in the back end that we're able to monitor everything, and that's really been one of the key success points that we're seeing now in going into these public venues. We have another one coming up just right around the corner here again, and we tend to do pretty much the same thing that we've had here. So really good experience with the U4Hs in this setting. And John, if you want to hit the next slide, kind of take you through the next scenario we've come up with. So as you can imagine, as I was talking about East Texas, and we have quite a few lakes around us. We have a lot of tall trees out here in East Texas, so that is a very big challenge if you don't have fiber, deployed, and you're doing some type of wireless play like we're doing in much of our areas. This was another solution that came about that we were just sitting there thinking. We had these requests for these homeowners. They wanted to get on our higher speed wireless service, but the only problem was that there was no line of sight, or the radio, just the signal wasn't good at their house because they're covered up in trees. So really, this picture you see here is the actual customer we had. I took a picture. This was a Google screenshot back during the winter, so you could see where the house is on the top side of that picture right there, and then their boat dock on the bottom side. So what we were able to do in this case here is that we set up the wireless radio at the boat dock, and then bridged with two U4HMs back to the house, and then dropped a U6, hardwired from that U4H HM that's sitting on the outside of the house into the house. So in the end of the day, this was a better solution than having a bridge. Traditionally how we would do it, we would have bridged it up to the house and dropped it in. That bridge was, usually most of our bridges we're seeing, maybe 100, 150 meg throughput with it. So this really transformed that dynamic of being able to get higher speeds into that house, but also be able to cover their entire backyard. They have a little fire pit out there. So now they're able to walk, from their house all the way to their boat dock, complete coverage, same SSID, not having to switch different systems and things of that nature. So this was a great example that worked with. Initially, we used the two U4HMs in this case. Now we received the P6HEs. We put one of the P6HEs at another house, same scenario here, down at the boat dock, shot, essentially bridging, meshing up to the U4H at the house, and running inside to either a U4 mesh or a U6 on the inside. So great scenario here. This we'll continue to see more and more of this. It's just giving us more options rather than telling that customer they need to build a tower at their house or have some really ugly telepole sticking up by their house. So this one's worked great for us. And we can switch slides here to next scenario 3 that we run into. So this right here, what we're looking at, just another one that every time we can get a chance to think of, how could we deploy these outdoor units? Where are these customers wanting service at? Well, this one right here this is actually a lodge on the lake, right? So you have the lodge it's that building towards the bottom of the picture. There's a metal building in the middle of the page. There's a resident house at the top of the picture, and then the garage shop that they have on the right-hand side of the picture. And this was, in the past, we would have taken the approach of going with some type of, enterprise solution that would have just gave service to the hotel, and then we would have had a separate solution or our Calix solution sitting in the resident's house. But again, because of having these options out here, what we were able to do in this scenario here was, again, create one single experience for our customer by we deployed a P6HE. It's that star on that big building on the bottom, right there in the middle. So that's our gateway coming in, servicing that entire lodge right there. And so we're getting full coverage there. We hardwired to a U4H on the outside, on the north side of that building right there, and essentially meshed over to another U4H at that house, and then hardwired inside the house with a U6. So great experience for the customer, because now, number one, they have the Command IQ app that they're able to control their guest Wi-Fi networks that they need for their customers that are coming in, but they're able to get that full visibility, have this, the isolation that they need, but all be able to have it in one solution. Whereas before, we had bridges running in here, and we had three different, they had three different vendors, gateways running, doing little segmented SSIDs here and there. So again, just being able to use one solution to really solve all the problems that this customer was having has really worked out great. And I've followed up with them over the last couple of weeks, and they've just been thrilled with what we've been able to do with the limited amount of. And that's the other point I should make, is that collapsing the number of devices that we needed to do something like this has certainly collapsed their costs in the end game. So that cost benefit factor, it's been a really good product and solution set that we've been able to work with in many different scenarios. So again, just real quick, I just thought it'd be great to really throw up some scenarios that we run into, get folks thinking that maybe you have the same similar environment that we're dealing with, and give you some ideas to run with. But going from this, really what we've deployed to this point has been just word of mouth. So it's either been installers out there talking with the customers, or it's been our CSR reps at the front line talking with customers. We're going through actually a web, I won't call it redesign, but an enhancement on our website to incorporate all these options that we now have with these outdoor units with Calix. So we're going to make it part of our cart process. And then, progressing from that, we're going to launch into some marketing campaigns for different areas, because as you can imagine, especially in our rural areas, this has been playing really, really nice. And we just, we're going to work on getting the word out to all our customers. But I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is, when it comes to, how do you price it? I'll give you where we're at today on what we've done price-wise, because that's always the tricky thing here, is that we were bringing this solution to the front, number one, because we needed to differentiate from our competitors. So we operate, as I said, in the CLEC and ILEC area, but in our CLECs we have some subdivisions where we have 4 other fiber providers that have come behind us in that same subdivision. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with all the tier ones and what they have. But the nice thing about that, about this solution, is that none of them least today, are offering any type of outdoor unit. So it really sets us apart from our competitors by having these solutions as part of our, our set here. So, like I said, talking about pricing, where we've landed right now is that our outdoor units, they're $9.99 a month for each unit. There is an NRC fee, so we do charge a one-time fee based on what that device type. So it can either be anywhere from 129 to 199. And if you have multiple units, we do have some concession breakpoints that give you a little bit of discount. If we're already going to have installers out there doing the install, then we're going to reduce what that cost is. But that's purely to cover our warranty side of the house on these products. Is why we're asking for that at least somewhat. It's not covering the full amount, but it's covering some degree of what these products cost. And that way, if we have to go and replace these in the future, we're able to essentially make up some of it rather than eating the full price of these devices. But even at that, like I said, $9.99 a month, it's a very easy price to get into. The smaller NRCs it hasn't been an obstacle for us yet. And as the numbers can tell, we've already deployed over 70 of these devices, and we haven't even started marketing it really heavy yet. So I'll leave you with that, and certainly be around to answer any questions as we get further in the webinar here.
Thank you, Jason. Excellent presentation. Now I'm going to move on and introduce Jess Van Beck from Adams Fiber. Take it away, Jess.
All right, Trudy. Thanks, John and Trudy, for having Adams Fiber be a part of this. And you can go on to the next slide if you want to, John. That's perfectly fine. But thanks, Jason. That makes it a tough act to follow right there. That was very nice. So give you a little history on the background on Adams. We were incorporated in 1952. We branched off, started a division called Adams Fiber in 2016. We're in West Central Illinois. Our headquarters, we have two of them, one in Golden and one in Quincy. We're a co-op and a CLEC as well. So, we serve both different business ventures, and whatnot in that sense as well. Currently, we have about 30,000 addressable broadband subs with I just looked the other day, it's just a little bit over 20,000 online currently right now. We first deployed our fiber network. We started back in 2007. So we've been a Calix customer since 2006 when we started rolling that stuff out. So we've been with them for quite a long time. So we've tried and true and tested everything, I think, by now. So you can go on, John, if you would, please. So when we started looking at the U4HMs, we were doing several other things to try to get that internet from A to B. And we live in a very rural, big farming communities around our area, and a lot of farmers would come up with their own solution. And that solution, 9 times out of 10, was a cellular hotspot of some sort that was not sufficient enough to meet their needs. So we ended up getting the call. We'd come out, assess the situation, and go from there. So mainly our competitors, we're in a Comcast area with our CLEC market. So they're probably one of our biggest competitors right now as far as that, but none of them really had a solution for, as Jason said, as for outdoor Wi-Fi to get there in the background. So, our primary needs for this U4HM are to get from A to B. It's a lot of people have sheds in their backyard. They have, I call them, there's a lot of she sheds out there that they want internet out there because there's a TV or whatever the case may be. And then of course now with the addition to Arlo, we are deploying cameras, and it seems like everywhere they want a camera, the Wi-Fi is spotty. So this is a good option for us to put in order to make that coverage in their backyard or closer to their shed to fit their needs. So if you don't mind moving on, please. So as I said before, we were using a previous point-to-point. It was a carrier grade, but it is a one-time fee up front, rather expensive. And our installations were, it says on here for 3 hours, and if that's if everything went well, the programming and everything. In this picture, this is one we did out of our area for a customer who called us with an wanting to get internet to their campground from their shed. And this installation was done by the customer, which normally I do not do. We don't do those. I knew this customer very well, and I walked her through it over the phone. So it's very simple. It was very easy, and the coverage, as you can see, the bars show that they can be at their pond fishing and get it plenty of service, whatever, they don't have any issues whatsoever. The beauty about this is that it's Omni, so it went, they picked up coverage elsewhere, and being a farm where it's at, they gained some other, internet in other places they weren't expecting to. So um, we went with the U4 versus that other. Now it's still, in my eyes, it's the main arrow in our quiver that we use is the U4HM, mainly because there's not that huge upfront cost. It's creating monthly revenue for us, but it's also given us the opportunity to monitor it and troubleshoot, if you will, over the phone. We were seeing a lot of times, the customer would call in and say that they were having problems with their point-to-point system, and there's not a whole lot we can do. So, it's a truck roll, and then there's that added cost on there. So with this, there's a little bit of more options. The customer may be able to maybe power cycle or what have you, in order to get that working. So we like that it was through Calix, one vendor, one Wi-Fi, one SSID. Many times we've seen customers, buy their own extender, and then they'd have to switch. When they got out to the shed, they'd have to switch to the EXT or whatever, and then have to come back, and they get on our Calix equipment in the house. And it's the ease of use, the less they have to be moving around and switching things around seem to be very beneficial for them. So if you move to the next one, please. So we started this doing a case by case basis, and we're far behind what Jason's got deployed right now. We're around 7 or 8 right now, tops. I think we got our 8th one deployed recently. This has all been word of mouth. Our installs all happen, or we do a site survey prior to our installs. The main reason I'm doing that, and you can do this however you wish, the main reason we are doing the site survey is the last thing I want is customer A selling it to customer B, because I promise you that could happen, because these things work too well in that regards. We've had, not that we've had that problem, but initial testing in in a city or a smaller village, you would have no problem getting this to another U4M inside a house. So we do a site survey. We check everything out, make sure that that's what they're after, why they're after it, and so on and so forth. So we've kind of went down that path just so we don't have them problems later on down the road. Like I said, most of these are farming communities. They want internet, in front of their shed, in their shed, around their shed, everywhere they can get it. And if they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have internet, is the way they kind of think of it. So we've kind of checked everything out. We go out and look at it ahead of time, make sure that that's going to work for them. The last thing I want to do is put something in that's not going to work. And so far this has been a top-notch piece of equipment that has been rock solid from the time we put our first one in until now. So our plans on marketing, we are going to do some social media marketing soon. We're going to kind of, as Jason said, we're going to change our website a little bit around, but we want to be the people that everybody call. If they have a problem, we want to have a solution for it, and this gives us the opportunity to have that solution for the people that want the internet by their pool or the equipment by the pool. So many times we're seeing things, it doesn't matter what it is, everything connects to the internet almost anymore. And if it connects, they might as well do it, is what they're thinking. So this gives us the opportunity to connect those devices that are outside. So we want to drive that home via social media first, then we'll do a kind of a campaign type thing to get that going a little more. So been a great product. Like I said, we don't have near as many deployed as Jason does, but they so far, I mean, these things are perfect. I mean, we've had zero problems with them. Um, I will mention that we do run Cat 5 or Cat 6 to every unit and use the PoE injectors. Um, we have found, the reason being there, we have found that 9 times out of 10 where we want to put this U4HM, there's not a power outlet nearby for it to plug into. So it's just been, part of our area that they don't have very many outlets on the side of the houses or what have you. They don't plan for that in the future. So, we run a Cat 5, Cat 6, depending on where we're at. We'll run it out there, use the PoE injector, and they've been phenomenal. So I think is that the last slide?
I think so.
Yep. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jess. Yeah,
Hmm?
awesome. Awesome presentation. Thank you for that. Thank you, Jason. And before we get into the wrap up, I'm going to ask Trudy to send out one more poll for us just to get a different perspective now. Before I asked you about your subscribers, now I want to ask about your own plans. So as you look at this question, do you have a current outdoor offering or have a plan in the works for 2024? So in the case where you're doing the planning purposes, we're going to have a small discussion, a short discussion here on how you can gain some access to information and materials to help you out. But as I see the responses coming in, let's give it another 20 seconds or so to give it the full thing. It looks like so far the majority of you are saying that you're planning to do something this year. Something's in the works for the year, which is good to hear. And then the next kind of tide is you're doing it by word of mouth, and some of you don't have plans yet to do some installations for outdoor Wi-Fi. Thank you for responding. Appreciate your active participation there. And let me move on. So for those of you that want to continue reading a little more information, we did do 2 case studies on atoms and peoples. So you can read a little bit more insight from both what Jason and Jess have described today. We also did a third case study with Green Hills Telephone, and that's available. All 3 of these are available for you on the calix.com website. We happy to provide those as well to all that might be interested after the call. So please visit those and move on to the next. So just kind of wrapping up a conversation that you heard a little bit from both Jason and Jess was around the comprehensive approach to solving this particular problem. And what we like to think of in Calix is that what we can deliver to our service providers is a complete solution set that includes not only the components, the baseline, which is the hardware, whether you're using some of our CO equipment or some of the remotes, as well as the combination of our CPE devices and limited subscriber to create a basis for the delivery. But it all is about stacking on top of this the value added capabilities that were mentioned. You have Service Cloud functionality that's tied to our products. You also have the subscriber tool sets, the Command IQ, the Experience IQ, and all this drives to basically building value on top of these products to deliver various types of managed services. And you might have heard of our marketing around Smart Life. Some of you may be even customers of Smart Life services, but each one of these areas is a solution set geared specifically for the subscribers of those communities, of those markets specifically, that have additional benefits tied to it. So we talk generally here about internet access, but there's a lot more to those offerings once you get to the level of the managed services. Next, it's just a replication of some of the discussion. You heard some model numbers thrown out to you today on some of our devices that are outdoors. The U4HM is the one here in the bottom in the middle of the outdoor systems. Jason mentioned the P6HE quite a bit in his rollout. So very comparable products, very good coverage. Couple that with some of the indoor units. You heard about the U6. There are other products that are available to you, U4s all the way through the U6s, both in the Wi-Fi 6E tri-band capabilities as well as dual band capabilities. And lastly, for those of you who are thinking about the rollout or in the midst of doing a rollout, just want to make sure that draw your attention to our market activation capability set, which is all contained within the electronic content builder that you find on the mycalix.com website. In it, you'll find quite a bit of information or quite a bit of collateral and content for use on websites, whether you want to put it in a bill insert, you want to email some of your subscribers, or even go as far as a door hanger to market this capability. And again, these are all geared for the outdoor, and there's quite a bit more selection that you can choose from, different visuals that are tied to some of the copy that you see here on the chart. So as we get into the Q&A and I take a look at some of your questions, we wanted to wrap this particular webinar with just a question to you specifically about how you view the webinar, and is there anything that you would be interested in following up with? So would you like to speak with any of us on how we might be able to support those initiatives, whether technically or marketing wise? And as you go through that, I'm going to start with some of the Q&A, and I'll start out with a pretty simple question, and it's all relative to the service that's currently available. So most of you, if not all of you, have already delivered in-home um, internet connectivity speeds. So when you add something, and I'll ask this to Jess first, when you added your outdoor coverage, Jess, did you have to make any modifications to your, the service definition or the contracts that you have with your subscribers?
So short answer is no. We currently don't do service contracts to any kind with our customers. So pretty much, I mean, it was, if they want it, that's great. We'll be glad to provide this at a monthly cost and a non-reoccurring charge at the beginning. So no, we did not have to alter those or change anything the way we were doing things right up front.
Right, and I guess there's no term commitment either from the subscriber?
No, there is no term on ours. No,
Yeah,
we're
and
taking a
Jason,
leap of
over to
faith
you.
there.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Jason. Jess. Jason, over to you, same question?
Yeah, very much in line with what Jess said too. I mean, there's no other service agreement or contract associated with it. It's just simply as easy as we could make it. It's a monthly charge with whatever the NRC charge is for the devices that they're deploying.
Great. Okay. Here's another question that just came in, asked about pricing. So what did you use to price out the services, you guys? Did you use competitive pricing, or did you take some value pricing strategies against this? And we'll start with Jason first and then go to Jess.
Yeah, so pricing is always tough, right? You want to get as much as you can without going too extreme there, right? But one of the things that we really looked at is that we wanted to make it easy to migrate from the existing solutions that we had today. So we had the traditional bridges, we had the bridges with an AP, associated with them. So we already had those package bundles created. So simply what we did is we just leveraged those exact same prices and moved them over to this product. And this just really allowed our installers when they're out talking to a customer, if they had the other solution, they could move to this. And it's really, just trying to make it easy for our customers at the end of the day. So we took what we had and just reapplied it to this solution set moving forward.
Okay, great. Jess?
So I took the cost of the piece of equipment and decided how many months am I going to have that in service to get that paid for. Here at Adams, we are all about experience. We want that customer to have the best possible experience and be a customer for forever. So I did spend a lot of time trying to come up with the right solution, the right pricing. As Jason said, you want to get as much as you possibly can, but boy, that's sometimes tough because you don't want to price it too high and price yourself out of the work. So we settled on a monthly reoccurring, and as Jason says, we're spot on with him. We're at $10 a month. So that's where we came. I just took the cost of the equipment and went from there.
How was that received, you guys, by your subscribers? They feel it was in line? They're comfortable with the pricing?
Yeah, I mean, so far the feedback we've got on the pricing is I've had everything, like I said, we're in a small rural area, and sometimes the farmers are, wow, that's a lot, and then there's other ones, that's it. So it's kind of been a mixture between the two, of what the pricing is, but so far it's been, we haven't had any pushback on the pricing so far.
Great. Okay. Another question just came in. This is more along the lines of meeting expectations. So, the question is, with outdoor performance being a little unpredictable, as Jason you described with the trees, what have you all been telling your prospects on what to expect? So let's start with Jesse, you first, and then we'll go to Jason.
So we set the expectation right out of the gate, and I think customer education is key when it comes to this, and we explain to them, there's only so much we can control. We've put this in the wooded areas where there's no foliage, and then the foliage pops out, and we see a degradation in the Wi-Fi. But it's so far we have not had that big of a problem to where we've had to come up with a different solution. It's still worked phenomenal and satisfied the customer for what they needed.
Great. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, and Jess nailed it right there. I mean, it's setting the expectation up front and educating the customers. That's one of the things we did. So we had a lot of training before we launched the product with all of our INR and CSR folks, anyone that's talking with the customer, and just really went through, again, basics of Wi-Fi, basics of, what type of structures may be in the way, and just how the propagation works. So we did a lot of education up front within our own teams, and we expect our installers and our reps to be talking with the customers when we're going out and deploying it. So we really, like I said, set the expectation up front, and then we've kind of created it's just we've set a boundary line. And we're like, if you're within 400 feet, somewhere around that area, you're going to work, it's going to work pretty decent. You're going to expect about these types of speeds. So we've gave some general guidelines to our installers, so that when they're looking at and doing a survey at a individual's property, that they can make the best recommendations off of that. But it is all about setting the expectation up front.
Yeah, yeah, good to know. And I think this question that's come in is relative to installation. So I'll address this one to you, Jason. Um, so the majority of your installations, are they siding mounted or are they pole mounted? It's kind of 50-50. And how do you guys go about, making that determination? Is it the subscriber? I guess the question is, does the subscriber dictate that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the customer's going to win every time, right? But what I've seen out in the field deployed is most of the time the installers are using those little J bracket mounts, like the DirecTV or Dish Network, mounts that are out there. They'll take those and mount them under the eaves, where they're able to hide those units, or at least to hide the mount really well. So that's worked. That's worked really good. And that we probably, if I had to put a percentage, I would say, probably 70% end up going to some type of pole mount, and then the other 30 or some, wall mounted fashion.
Yeah, very good. And since Jess, you mentioned that you had a customer that did their own install, um, give us a little more feedback on, was that something that had to happen, or, is that something that you plan to offer, I guess, at some point down the road? You mentioned this one did it by themselves, but it's not in your plans currently. Is that something you
Yeah,
want to do?
No, no, to be honest with you, no, it's not in my current plans. This customer is she was an employee, and our farm, our family farm, is about 2 or 3 hours away from us. So it was not, you know, beneficial for sending one of my techs up there to do that, completely out of our territory. So um, as far as the install goes, I mean, it's all she had the U6, one of our U6s in place to use. So it was basically a plug and play. It was just getting the wire from A to B. So it was very simple. And like I said, I walked her through over the phone, with little problems, and they were so minute that it wasn't, I mean, very simple issues that she had over the phone. And it supplied the internet to where she wanted. So
Right. Um, okay, I think we have time for one more question, you guys, and you can both wrap this one up from your side. So the question was around training internally. Um, any extra activity, any extra training you had to do for your staff, whether it be the CSRs, the techs that are doing the install, anything to kind of be a heads up on to other providers on the call.
I'll go. So most of our training, I think right now that we've done is with our CSRs on how to sell this. Our most of our installers have been doing, like I said, the point-to-point option that we've had. We've all done those. We've been doing those for probably about 10, 12 years now. So we've had that kind of segue into this so that they can hide the wire, they can hide the mount, whether it's a pole mount like Jason mentioned, which we are using quite a bit of as well. But most of our training has gone to the CSRs to get that information from that customer to give them the best solution that they need.
Right. And Jason, you same.
Yeah, really. I mean, we put a big focus on just training on Wi-Fi principles to start, making sure everyone really understands, make sure our installers, CSR reps understand a 2.4 to 5 to 6, gigahertz radio, the differences in the each technology step there, and then what it brings and pros and cons of that. So we did a lot of training around just Wi-Fi basics, and then from a CSR perspective, just like Jess was saying, is just making sure that they're trained well in the product set that's available, so they can help guide that customer while they're talking to them over the phone. And then ultimately, it just comes down to when our installers go out on site, making the final recommendation based on what they're seeing and based on their experiences.
Great. That's great. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. First, many thanks to you, Jason and Jess, for your contributions and your discussion. Hope to have you guys back again sometime. And for all of you that have spent the hour with us, thank you very much for dedicating that time, and hope we have answered some questions or give you some insight to some next steps you might want to take for service offerings in your territories. So have a great week. Talk to you soon.